Hello and welcome. I'm Marian Pyle. Thanks for joining us here at Winning at Love. This uplifting video series is designed to honor God and provide guidance and encouragement to Christian singles about dating, romance, and finding the right partner in life. Winning at Love brings you 8 deeply personal and inspiring testimonies told by Christian couples who took a risk, faced their fears, persevered through the setbacks, and won the heart of the one they loved. We trust you'll be blessed. Here now is Winning at Love.
Winning at Love, spirit-filled stories about dating and romance.
Zach's childhood was shaped by his mother's many divorces and the instability of moving from place to place. He rebelled as a child and did not get serious about his faith until his freshman year in high school. After his college studies in California, Zach pursued every opportunity to professionally develop and grow. One day while on Facebook, he noticed an old high school friend had graduated from college and moved back to San Diego. Stepping out in faith, he sent her an email. And with that one little click, Zach started a chain of events that not only changed his life, but also exceeded his wildest dreams. The oldest of 5 children, Sarah was raised in a Christian and Catholic church-going home. However, her faith did not become real until she was a junior in high school. After graduating from college with a double major in advertising and PR, Sarah returned home to San Diego with only career plans on her mind. But as you'll soon hear, all of that changed after one day on the ski slopes where she discovered a new adventure even more exciting than the snowboarding she loved so much. This is Zach and Sarah.
I'm Zach Johnson.
I'm Sarah Johnson.
And we're sharing a little bit about our story. So we both graduated high school and we kind of parted ways, never even imagining that we would ever meet again, kind of.
Well, I'm going to back up a little bit just on that piece because it was really funny to see, because I do remember you in 2nd grade and he was like the kind of mischievous little chunky 2nd grader that got into trouble and it was just like this not very good kid. And then I remember in high school, all of a sudden there was this tall person who was like all slimmed out and like good guy, president of the Christian club, like solid person. And I was like, wait, this is the same person? And so it's just like, wow. And that was, I think, my initial like, this guy's pretty interesting. We were always acquaintances and we had the same group of people. We hung around the same group of people.
It was never one-on-one thing.
It was never.
We didn't date in high school or anything. So we parted ways, never really imagining that we'd meet again. I kind of started wrestling with life and what it means to do life, and I'd been in LA for about 4 years and been through my share of different relationships and struggles and really trying to identify the issues that I had with myself. And I had a lot of commitment problems and from broken relationships in the past, of family issues, and I just saw this dysfunctional pattern in my life that if I didn't realize that if I didn't correct it, it was going to be pretty damaging. And so I was kind of on this renewed thing. It was New Year's and I was like, I'm done with this, all this dysfunction and pursuing, whatever relationships. I think I was actually at church. I was working at a church at the time, and at church during service, I was playing on Facebook, and I was like, I wonder what Sarah's doing, because I saw some status update or something that you had, and I was like, I wonder what you're doing. I noticed she'd been graduated from college, and moved back home to San Diego, and then I saw all this stuff about her doing, Young Life and all this. Wow, she loves the Lord and she's beautiful, and what am I doing if I don't contact this girl and try to reconnect in some way? So I sent out a line and seeing if it would go anywhere, and immediately she responded back, and I was like, oh, I see you like snowboarding. You want to go snowboarding sometime?
Yeah, and I had just come back from Flagstaff in Arizona, where it's, one of the main things I loved about it was that there was a ski resort like 20 minutes from the college, and so I was big into snowboarding, and I was like, got this message from Zach, and I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't gone all season. Yes, like I'd love to go. And then I was living with a girlfriend at the time of mine, and she also went to high school with me, and she's like, Zach? Dan Zach? I'm like, yeah, Dan Zach, like, because that was his little nickname, because his first name's Daniel. Anyways, so I was like, yeah, going snowboarding with Dan Zach, and they're like, wow, like, is this something that's, like a date? And I'm like, no, like, there's friends gonna be there, and it's not just me and him, it'll just be a fun hangout time. So I woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning from San Diego to go snowboarding with Zach, and I'm like halfway up there driving, and I'm just thinking, what am I doing? I only remember brief interactions with him in high school, like going up there by myself, like, is this a good idea? Kind of like, all of a sudden it just started like catching up to me, like, I'm going to drive all 2 hours to meet this guy. Hopefully it's not awkward, because I haven't seen him for a long time.
Yeah, I had invited my best friend Chris with me, and I told him who she was, and he's like, well, yes, all right, let's go for it. And he just like, let's go snowboarding together. And so we go through that day, and in just immediately recognizing her kindness and her love of life, and something that was different from the average encounter that I had with most people I was interested in.
Yeah, and then it was really funny, because during our day of snowboarding, it wasn't really our first date, but it was just kind of more of like our first interaction from high school. He had said, I had asked him, oh, when's the last time you've been down to San Diego? And he said, oh, like 6 months, like it's been a while. Because his family lived down there, so I was wondering if he'd been down there to see his family. So I'm driving down from the snowboarding day, and he calls me and he's like, hey, so I think on Monday I'm gonna come down to see my mom in San Diego, and just wanted to see if you want to hang out. And and I was like, oh, okay, got it. Like, totally never goes down there to see his mom. And
I hadn't even talked to my mom yet. I just knew that I needed something.
Yeah. Then we scheduled this like hangout time. We were like planned all this stuff, and it's kind of like 7 dates in one date. We like took his dog to Dog Beach. We watched the sunset. We went out to dinner. We like did all these different things, all in this like really small block of time, because he had to drive back up to Pasadena, because it was like a long distance thing at this point.
Yeah.
But I just remember talking to Zach and just being like, this is like a solid guy. Like, he just loves the Lord, and he's just like on fire for life, and he seems to be like on fire for me right now. And I was just like, this is awesome. Like, I really like this guy. And the thing that I think was the initial attraction is that I'd always had a hard time with the relationships with kind of just being myself and letting loose a little bit, and really just being true to who I am. And Zach just totally brought that out of me. And I don't know if it was because we had known each other since 2nd grade or what it was from, but I just vividly remember, because we talked until like 12 at night in his car, and it was just natural. Everything was just flowing, and I was like, gosh, I feel like I've known him my whole life, and I kind of have, but this is just so real. And
yeah, that first date we just sat
it's the best, yeah,
in the car looking over the skyline, and we talked for like 3 hours
about everything. Like,
wait, so you know this
things,
person,
yeah.
You remember this person, and isn't it crazy we went to school together, and here we are sitting, and I like you, I'm interested in this, and I want to see where it goes. And so we kind of parted ways, and I just got back up to LA thinking, when is the next time I can contact this girl and hang out with her? And so I was just coming up with things to do and places to go, and it became this 6-7 months later, it was like, we need to figure this out.
I think we got to that point where we were doing long distance for 8 months, and I had previously just gotten out of a not very good relationship with somebody who I did long distance with, and it just was like, oh, another long distance relationship. And so we did this for 8 months, and then you were very adamant about we got to do something with this, or we can't do this anymore, because there comes a point in time, I think, in every long distance relationship where you have to see if it's going to work. And doing long distance is fine, but initially it's like you need that face-to-face interaction. Like, I had no idea what it was going to be like to be in the same area with Zach and see him every day, because it was kind of like vacation boyfriend, you know? He'd come down and we'd hang out for the weekends, and it was all great, but I'm like, but I don't know who you really are. Like, I want to see you every day, you know, and just see what it's like to date you. So we started being a little more proactive with like, well, who's gonna move? Is it gonna be you? Is it gonna be me? And I was trying to find a job, because it was like 2008, everybody knows I was like the worst year to find a job. And there was a few openings up in Pasadena, and Zach was like, just move up here. Like, don't even worry if you have a job. And I'm like, no, like, I can't do that. Like, I'm not that adventurous.
I was pushing her resume everywhere.
Yeah.
I was like, who do I know that could get her a job in LA?
Yeah. So I just like really, we both started praying about it separately and together. Like, what's the next step? Like, do I go up there? Does he come down here? Like, what's this next thing gonna be? And then 3 months later, I got a job in Pasadena, and I was like, thanks, Lord. You just totally opened up a door, and I feel like this is, you know, this is the next step. I don't know if it's gonna lead to anything else, but let's just see how this next step goes.
Through that whole process of us, you know, figuring whether this is right or this is wrong, and all the struggles that came with a long distance relationship, I was very strategic with, you know, letting her know from the beginning, like, I'm in pursuit of, you know, a life partner, you know, and I'm in pursuit of somebody that I can share these things with, these struggles with, and these insecurities with, and that can support me and I can support her. And so from the beginning, it was I'd kind of gone through so much nonsense in the dating world that I was just like, I'm not in this for dating. I'm not in this for you know, kicks. And I told her that very early on, and feelings were reciprocated. I mean, it just seemed like a quick process to where if she was gonna move to LA, I was gonna marry her, and that was kind of my, you know, benchmark. Like, if she made that step after I'd been pursuing her for, you know, 6-7 months, and was like, I really, really want this to happen. I have, you know, this is kind of things that I've established in LA, and I'd love for you to join my life up here. And she did.
Yeah, and it was just kind of, it just worked. Like, I moved up there not really knowing what was gonna happen if, like,
scary.
I would just, you know, it was a total, like, leap of faith. I mean, I had no idea if this was gonna work out and all this stuff, and it was just, like, so right and, like, so perfect. I just felt like everything that I had been praying about for a husband, like, Zach had it, and I was, like, ready to jump in. And there was some initial, I think, fear of just marriage, what that means, and, like, what the commitment is, because in my life, I had never seen, like, a perfect example of what marriage looks like. Not that there is a perfect marriage, but just a good example of what that would be like. And Zach just kind of reiterated that there is no perfect marriage, and, like, there's gonna be ups and downs, and, like, we just gotta, if we're gonna take this, you know, leap of faith, let's do it together, and like, I'll be with you, and it's, you know, it'll be okay. So.
And so when she moved to LA, I called my dad, and I was like, Dad, what do I do now? I don't want the next step to be like, here's a ring, let's plan a wedding. Because I feel like in our culture, that's so much what happens, is that the second you put a ring on their finger, it becomes this process of, where's the venue? What are we doing with flowers and all this kind of stuff? So there needed to be a next step.
Yeah.
And I couldn't define that next step, and I was like, Dad, I think it's like a courting thing. I think the next step, I want her to be like, I'm going to marry you. I am committed to that point, to where I'm going to marry you. but we need to work through some stuff, and we need to go through. So we did premarital counseling.
Pre-engagement counseling.
Pre-engagement
So it wasn't
counseling.
even, which Zach kind of proposed this idea, and at first I was like, whoa, like that's pretty bold, you know, but Zach's a bold guy, so I was like, okay, you know, and he kind of said just the explanation that he just said, and I was like, you know, I think you're right, like, because I know I have issues, you have issues, you know, family stuff, that we would just need to work out without the pressure of like being engaged. So. And
I figured if she can handle a counseling session with me just throwing it all out on the table, like we're good.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
You know?
One of the main things I remember from our counseling, our pre-engagement counseling, was we took this test to kind of see what our personalities were, and so we took one for ourselves, and then we took one for each other.
Right.
And from the results of that, the married couple that we were going through doing this, they pointed out that I like knew him to a T.
It was crazy.
And it was like, and the guy's like, you know, man, she knows you and she's still with you. Like, this is a good thing, you know? Like, this is gonna be okay, you know? So.
And there was hard sessions and there was good sessions, and times where I was crying and times where she was crying, and just, I can't tell you how beneficial that was for our relationship, because we were in pursuit of a life together and not in pursuit of an initial emotion. And I think that's what so many people find. I'm in love, I want this, I want that, and it really comes down to kind of selfish motives and emotion, and not really like wanting to commit for the sake of commitment. But love to me is all about that sacrifice to one another, and so we really wanted to figure that out, and we were intentional about figuring that out. And we went through a process. You were working there for.
I was working in LA for about 6-8 months or so. And
almost a year.
Yeah, and so we were then talking about, this is still why we were not engaged, kind of timelines and like when can we see, getting married.
She started getting a little antsy.
And then I'm just gonna share our engagement story, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Back in the day when we did do long distance, we used to always meet up in San Clemente, because that was like the middle point for that was like the middle point for where we would meet. We'd have like lunch dates there every so often. So Zach was like, hey, we're gonna go meet up with some friends in San Clemente. And this was planned like weeks before, because our friends are kind of hard to get a hold of. And so Zach had made all these plans. And so I was like, okay, great. We got off work, we drove down there halfway through the LA traffic.
5 hours.
Yeah, Zach's
Awesome.
like, so then his phone rings, and then his friend calls and cancels. And so he's like, well, I guess we're just gonna have to do dinner by ourselves. So I was like, okay. So we ended up going to this restaurant that we used to always eat at when we would meet up in San Clemente. And he just kept, I don't know why I didn't pick it up, but he kept saying all these things like, this is so sentimental, and like all these like, isn't this so great, like all this stuff. And I was like, yeah, babe, like this is awesome, but I didn't understand why he was being so like ooey gooey feelings about the whole thing. So then afterwards he's like, well, I really want to go to watch the sunset. My boss has this house. They're out of town for the week, and I want to go and like watch the sunset there. And I was like, okay. And I was a little nervous. I was like, your boss is out of town. Why are we going to his house? Like kind of questioning it. I was like, I don't want to do it. And he's like, no, I think we should do it. Like let's go do this. And so I was like, okay. So we show up to the house, and the people are there, like the owners of the house. And
Okay,
I'm like,
so let's take a break for a second. So I had planned a lot of this stuff out to the T, okay? Because this was gonna work perfectly. I knew exactly when sunset was gonna hit. I knew when it was all gonna go down. I pull up in front of the house, and my boss's dad is standing right there, and he's like, "Are you guys the couple?" And I said, "Yes, I work for your son." And he's like, and I was like, "Why don't you go in the house?" and we're gonna go take a look at your backyard, because your son said you had a great backyard, and so that's when.
Yeah, so I was like, oh my gosh, I told Zach, I was like, we need to go. Like this is not
freaking
okay.
out.
Like these people are home. Like this is embarrassing and awkward. And he's like, no. He's like, let's just don't worry about it. Like let's just go. And so I'm like, okay. So we walk through, and these people have like literally an award-winning rose garden, and I'm like, holy cow! Like it is just gorgeous. And I don't know why I said this, but I said, gosh, you could have a wedding back here. I was like, this is so beautiful. And then we walked to like the end, and it was overlooking all of the ocean. It was like a cliff that overlooked the ocean over in San Clemente. And I was just like, gosh, this is so pretty. Still had not a clue. Like, I had no idea what was going on because I'm just really oblivious, I guess. I was just like, oh, so we're sitting there, and he's like, oh, I need to go back to the car. I forgot something. I was like, oh, go get my camera. I want to take some pictures. So he goes back to the car, and then he comes back out with his guitar. And I think that was the first moment where I was like, wait a minute, something is going on here. Because since we have been dating, Zach has a really good voice, and he can play almost any instrument. And I've always asked him throughout our like dating time, can you please write me a song? Like, that's every girl. Like, if you can sing a song, if you can play guitar, you want a song written for you. So I was like, please write me a song, and he never did. So then we brought his guitar out. I'm like, what's going on here? And so he sits down and he's like, I wrote you a song. And then I was like, oh my gosh, here it is. Like, I finally was like, this is it. This has got to be it. Yeah. And so he just wrote this totally beautiful song about us and our life, and just kind of how we knew each other when we were young, and just our journey and like where we were. And the chorus was, will you be my bride? And then he like popped down on one knee, and he opened the little box and proposed, and it was just like, oh, it was so incredible. And then I didn't know this, but our friend, who's a professional photographer, was taking pictures in the background the whole time. So we got everything like captured. It was incredible. I was just like, oh my gosh. And it was, of course, just like love moments, just kissing, and it was just wonderful. And then he's like, okay, so we have one more thing. And I'm like, all right, well, you know, where are we going?
So we get in the car. I got one more little special thing planned, and she immediately hops on the phone, just calling, I feel like, everybody she knows. I was like, what are you doing? She calls her sister. My sister's not answering the phone. I'm going to call my mom. She calls her mom. My mom's not answering the phone. Where are they all at? And so finally she calls her dad, and her dad answers the phone. Hey.
And I'm like, I'm engaged.
Freaks out.
Freaking out.
And nobody's like kind of there, and he's like, oh really?
Yeah, I was like, where is everybody? And he's like, I don't know, honey. I'll call you when mom gets back. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, geez, like, just want to tell everybody.
Yeah.
So then we show up at this random house, and then I was like, what are we doing? And he's like, I just got to get something from my friend's house. I don't remember what your excuse was. But we opened the door, and it was all of our friends and family. Yeah. And he had thrown like a surprise engagement party for me. And it was incredible, because that's like the first thing you want to do when you're engaged, is just tell everybody. So it was cool to have everybody be in one location to celebrate with. So it was pretty amazing. We got married like 7 months later.
And I feel like that process between engagement to wedding was hard, very difficult. I mean, especially because we were so intentional. We were in a stage of life to where all of our friends were either married or like living together, and you know, we made a conscious decision, like, we're not, you know, we want to not live together. We want to maintain abstinence during our wedding. I mean, our whole process, and boy, that was hard.
Yeah, it was really hard. And I think it's even harder because it was like, I didn't know anybody up there. All I knew was Zach, and so it would be so easy just to live with him, but it's like, we really
especially
tried.
when money got tight and we were like saving for a wedding, and oh man, things get really, really sticky and difficult.
And there was one point in time where we had already rented the apartment that we were going to live in after we were married, and Zach moved in from December until January, and then our wedding was January 22nd, and so my lease was up January 1st, and so we ended up having all of our stuff together, practically living together, but every night he'd go to the pastor's house to sleep there. So it's just like,
hold me accountable.
It was like, but it was great because, you know, like, Zach's Jeep had to be out there every morning, you know, and so it was total accountability, but it's just, I think it's something that was so pure and so great, and I have no regrets doing it, and I think the Lord really blessed us in our marriage in doing that. So.
And there's a lot of cool things about our wedding, but I think one of the coolest things that I realized was our pastor was like one of my good friends who helped mentored me through a lot of my struggles in LA and trying to make it, and you know, and he said one of the things that I asked Zach, you know, when he knew that he wanted to marry Sarah, and it was pretty much when the love was reciprocated, and I knew that when I laid everything out on the table in those sessions of, you know, It's like, and that love was still coming back at me, despite all of what I felt to be insecurities and dysfunctions and all this kind of stuff. And she was willing to work with me through those things.
Yeah.
I knew we were ready, you know, for a life of, you know, whatever the world can throw at us. So, you know.
So yeah, that's our story.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Winning at Love. For more episodes, information, and resources, please visit us at winningatlove.tv. That's winningatlove.tv, not .com. And if you found it helpful, be sure and tell a friend. Thanks for watching, and see you again next time.